Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando is the world's premier Halloween event. During the fall evenings, Universal Studios Florida transforms itself from a family-friendly theme park to the ultimate place for horror fans. The park becomes overrun by chainsaw-wielding hordes, swamp zombies, and demon queens, all ready to give you a terrifying time. The twisted minds behind Halloween Horror Nights have designed 10 movie set quality horror houses designed to scare the crap out of you. 6 of the houses at HHN 33 were designed entirely by the team at Universal Orlando. There is every genre going from slasher style killers to B-movie marathons in the Slaughter Cinema 2 house. This year, some of the biggest names in horror can be found at the event. Find yourself inside Insidious the Further, Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines, A Quiet Place, and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. After 33 years in the business, Universal Orlando have perfected bringing horror movies to life. Universal invited us down to find out exactly what goes into creating one of the biggest horror events in the world. I'm Helen, this is What Culture. Let's go and bust some ghosts.
After brushing up on our ghostly knowledge aboard North Atlantic Airways, we meet up with Laura Sauls, Assistant Director at Universal Orlando Entertainment. She told us everything that goes into creating the event and also gave us a behind-the-scenes tour of 2 of this year's houses, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire and Slaughter Cinema 2.
I'm Helen Wright with What Culture, and I'm here with Laura Sauls, Assistant Director of Entertainment for Universal Orlando, talking all things Halloween Horror Nights. Hi Laura, thank you for being with us.
Oh, it's my great pleasure. I'm so excited.
Can you tell us a bit about your history with Universal and how you came to be in the role that you're in now?
I have worked here 28 years. I've had the great pleasure to be a performer here, but also to show direct some of the amazing shows that we have here. I've been a part of Horror Nights since 1998. And in that time, I've had the, again, great pleasure to choreograph some shows, to direct some live shows, to also be a part of the creation team for haunted houses, scare zones. So now I get to lead the team that gets to create the content for not only Halloween Horror Nights, but for all of Universal Orlando's marquee events, which are seasonal events like Mardi Gras and our holiday program. Inside Ray's Occult Shop, we have really cool moments. We have podcast, with his hammer, kind of smashing down on us. We have Ray, of course, giving us that story beat of how Garaka was first placed in this bronze orb. Hearing about Garaka for the first time. For those that might not have seen the Frozen Empire film, this is a story moment that we want everyone to hear. You're going to see Garaka's stone appear behind this wall. We're going to see Nadim's armor appear behind this wall. And then as you move closer, we're actually going to see the first appearance of Garaka in shadow in this scene. So it's a big storytelling scene. We really, we feel the best balance here at Universal Orlando is to have 5 horror franchises, intellectual properties, and 5 original content, but that can ebb and flow depending on how many franchises we have to work with that year or how many original content houses we have to work with. In 2024, we actually have 6 original content stories in haunted houses and 4 intellectual property horror franchises in haunted houses. So it really does depend. In our creative cycle, we always start our creative cycle with a brainstorm week. And in that brainstorm week, we like to come out of that with 10 original stories. That way we can shelve stories for later, but we can develop at least 6 of them. And that 6th one that's developed will really be a just in case we don't have a great slate of 5 intellectual properties or horror franchises. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't only doing B horror movies, but in Slaughter Cinema 2, we're also doing creature features and a spaghetti western.
Gotta have it.
Yeah. With the show lighting on, it really highlights each of the stories you're going to go into, which, again, we couldn't do it without all of the elements together. We love this room specifically too. If you were a fan and you wanted to bring your own 3D glasses, they painted this as you would see 3D elements. So really? See this kind of skull in the distance. If you had 3D glasses on, that would pop forward.
And how different is it working on the original houses to the franchise houses?
Both have unique processes, but both are just so cool in and of themselves, because when we dive into these horror franchises, we're really diving in to the films, to the scripts. We're able to take that franchise and really find what the fans want out of a haunted house with that franchise and develop it with our intellectual property partners. So for instance, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, we worked hand in hand with our Sony partners to develop that horror franchise into a haunted house. We love to dive into their materials, and that's really fun. For our original content houses, that comes from our brains. So again, our twisted brains have a lot of fun coming up with those original stories too. But it is a team that really collaborates on what those original stories are, which I think really makes them really rich and full in themselves, right? So it's two different kinds of processes, but both are just extremely just amazing to work with. If the house needs really good storytelling, we try to layer that in all different ways, right? Sometimes it's with our characters and what their triggers might say. Sometimes it's with just audio in general, giving us a story beat in the scene. Sometimes it's written on the walls. We have done that before, where we wrote the story on the walls and you could read it as you went through the house. So there are multiple ways that we can tell stories within a haunted house. In Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, we really thought seeing the characters and hearing them tell the story was super important to this franchise.
So this year you've got 4 huge franchise names. Let's go through them. We have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, Quiet Place, Insidious the Further, and the Universal Monsters. What is it like creating a house on a franchise that fans are very familiar with? Is there an extra pressure involved with that?
I mean, for us, pressure's always there to make a great haunted house, right? But these horror franchises this year, all of them are horror franchises, which is really great. So there was a lot of content to pull from for these films and characters. For instance, Insidious, those films are full of jump scares, right? That is, when you watch those films, there's just moments that you don't expect that there is a demon or a further ghost in your face or someplace that you didn't expect them. So our team of senior show director Matt Flood and senior scenic designer Dylan Koloth wanted the haunted house experience to be just that. So they designed kind of how you went through that house to not know where the scares are, not know how many scares are in there. We've heard some people now have gone through the house that think we have more characters in that house. We don't. It's just how the characters are scaring. It feels like there's more characters in that house than any other house. So we really try to stay true to the franchise. With our Universal Monsters, we've just had the great honor that we've been able to tell new stories with them. And this year we just, our show director Kelly Mallett came to me and was like, we've highlighted some of the female monsters within Universal Monsters, but we haven't really highlighted all of them. And maybe this year we bring them out of the shadows and into the forefront to really highlight those female monsters. And we thought it was just a brilliant idea. And then we collaborated with our West Coast creative partners to really bring that story to life. And it's just, again, it's a great honor that our Universal Pictures partners allows us to expand on the stories of our very own Universal Monsters. Well, A Quiet Place, when we knew we were working with that property, we got very excited because we knew it was going to be something very unique and different, right? But it shouldn't be quiet, because if you were a quiet haunted house experience for that franchise, the creature would never come out at you, right? The creature has a cochlea that can hear just the tiniest of sound that forces that creature to attack. But it was Senior show director Charles Gray led the charge and the creative of that haunted house, and he says all the time that it was an experiment to experiment with the audio soundscape. Typically in our haunted houses, we have beautiful musical scores, much like films, that kind of take you on an emotional journey through the haunted house. We knew this house was not going to have a musical score, right? So we went back to the film, really listened to how the film scored their product, and found that really A Quiet Place 1 and 2 had these kind of low drone type of sounds that really gave you that emotional connection or didn't. And then those, of course, environmental sounds that really drew those creatures out, right? But we knew it was going to be an experiment to see if our fans would go with us on this kind of trying to be quiet. And what's amazing is last week when I was walking that house, I could hear fans try to muddle their screams. Like they were really trying to like hold in their screams and go on that semi-quiet journey with us. We really take you into these franchises. You see everything you want to see. And I think that's the brilliant minds of our creative development team. Our show direction team is so amazing. And they really do all of these huge horror properties. They really deep dive into them to make sure we are giving the fans exactly what they want. Here in the main firehouse scene, we loved this scene in the film when Garaka actually possessed the Ecto, right? And so this is the possessed Ecto coming at us with bright red lights to make you aware that it's possessed. But again, all those fun little mischievous mini puffs are all over it.
You never noticed these ones,
No.
On first.
No, but I absolutely love them, and they always look like they're having so much fun.
Is it nerve-wracking to create a house that goes in a different direction to what you would normally expect from a Horror Nights house?
No, it's a great challenge for us. We love a good challenge, and that's why we loved A Quiet Place, right? It was a great challenge for us to think outside of the box and think in a new way. We strive to do that every year, is to think outside of the box. What are new ways we can scare people? What are new ways that we can have the experience just be unique? This is a giant push head shark. The mouth moves. It's pretty amazing. And gory.
It's super
He's
gory.
eaten a lot of campers. I think the big shark would be fun in my office.
How big's your office, Laura?
Not big at all. It would take up the whole office. Our clown that is over here can actually
That's cool.
push his hand through this to make it look like he's coming after you.
So how do you get the balance between the slasher horror and the psychological horror? How do you know what's the best balance for the 10 houses?
Well, it really, one of the things that we want to do every year is to have what we call a diverse slate of content, right? Because we know there are people that absolutely love a slasher film. We know there's people that absolutely love kind of that comedic horror film. We want to give something for everyone. So when we're in that brainstorm week, and we typically like to come out of that week with 10 original content ideas, we really try to make sure that our original content ideas are diverse. That way, when our intellectual properties or horror franchises are folded in to the development calendar, we can take a look at it and make sure that we have something for everyone, that we're not all slasher based. This year, we have an original content house called Triplets of Terror, right? And the Triplets house was a slasher house that we had brainstormed 2 years ago. But 2 years ago, we had a slasher as an intellectual property house. So we had to shelve that idea, but we brought it back this year because we didn't have a slasher as a part of our horror franchise haunted houses. So we thought Triplets of Terror would be perfect this year to have these 3 individuals being our original content slashers in the event. So here is the moment, the culmination of this film coming together. Again, a beautiful collaboration between our lighting, effects and video team, where you see the snow behind here, you feel the snow, you're gonna see Garaka come through here, you're gonna see Phoebe with her bronze proton pack, and it's that same internal lighting with the video mapping over top of it. She is fighting Garaka here. Then we see Nadim throwing his fire here. We have that same effect in internal lighting, and then our video team mapped over it, so it really gives you that powerful moment.
And how important is it from a audience perspective to have that mix as you're going through on a single night?
It is so important, because if you went through one specific style haunted house, I think you would be numb to it, right? I think we would, as humans, we'd understand the psychology of it. We'd understand that, oh, if I turn this corner, there's going to be a scare here. If I turn this corner, there's going to be a scare here. There's going to be so, you know what I mean? I think we would just get numb to it. So that's why our teams are the best in the business. Our scenic teams, our costume teams, our technical teams, our show direction teams are the best in the business to kind of put you on edge, to not really know exactly what you're getting into, but once you're in it, you're having so much fun. So this is awesome that, you know, our partier here, our guy has partied a little too hard. He vomits on us, and then we get our jester coming out and attacking us. Again, I love the attention to detail that our team does. There is one hidden thing that if you take the Unmasking the Horror tour, that behind the scenes tour, you would find this out. But every year we code name our haunted houses at the beginning. That way we can keep it a secret a little bit of what we're doing for a while. And this year for 2024, all of our code names were like desserts. And the code name for Slaughter Cinema 2 was Cobbler. Well, our decor team this year decided to put the code names in the haunted houses, and here you will see a cobbler.
How important is it to be an assault on all of the senses? So the cold rooms, I know in the sort of Cinema 2 house, the smell of vomit definitely stuck in my mind a long time after that house. How important is it to make sure that you've got all of those elements in a house?
It's very important, because if we can attack all your senses or most of your senses, your senses are down, right? In major suites, we've done this throughout our history at times, but have stepped away from it for a while. We have what we call GATs, guest activated triggers. So that is even your sense of touch, which we say, please don't touch anything, right? But here in major suites, Candy Factory, we're actually flashing a red light saying, please touch this, right? And these GATs you can touch, and then they trigger some other effect, whether it's a pressurized air or a water effect, which is so great because we want to attack all of those senses, but then also give you times where we're not attacking those senses, so you feel like you're in a good place, and then boom, we attack those senses again. The effect of a snow-covered environment, I think, makes us feel cold, because honestly, we didn't make it any colder.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
yes.
I thought that had been scientifically
No. But I think mentally, when we look at a scene like this that is completely frozen over, automatically, internally, we're feeling a chill, right?
Yeah.
When we're seeing the snowfall in the finale scene, we're automatically feeling that chill. Psychologically, we know Garaka brings the freeze, and we're feeling that.
So the scare zones are a really important part of Halloween Horror Nights, because they keep the terror, the fear going between the houses. So how do you come up with the concepts for those areas, and how do they complement the houses?
Well, really, scare zones are in and of itself. right? We really try to tie in any overall thematic we have to scare zones, because what people see in our marketing messages and out in billboards and stuff, we want to make sure they see when they come into the event. And yes, we do celebrate our haunted houses, but scare zones, we've always said, are the one thing everybody goes through, right? Because you have to engage a scare zone even if you don't go into any haunted house. And we want to keep, like you said, we want to keep that intensity, but we also want to show diversity. So scare zones are, to me, as important as the haunted houses, because if you came out of a haunted house and you were just thrust back into our park that is normal, with the music that is our daytime music, you might feel like you're not in a Halloween event. So I think the scare zone is that tie that binds the entire event. And again, I think in that brainstorm week, we always try to come up with an overall idea. And out of that overall idea, we really hone in on what scare zones could be. The story behind this, which you'll get in the trailer that you see in the facade of this house, is that this strip club owner, some real Egyptian things fall off of a truck, and he brings it into his strip club. Unknowingly, he has mummies in his strip club now, and they are pulling the essence out of humans to create themselves in a beautiful light. So our mummy strippers that are up on the stage are horrific mummies, and then here we have the beautiful mummy that's stolen all of the essence pop out at us here.
That's great.
Sinister and Surreal are our iconic characters for Halloween Horror Nights 33 here at Universal Orlando. They have a very interesting story. 10 years ago, in 2013, I was the show director on the Scare Zone program, and I was working with a scenic designer, Manuel Cordero, and we had actually come up with Sinister and Surreal and dividing the park into two sides. Things happened that year, and we had to shelve that idea. And so for the last 10 years, in our brainstorm, we like to come up with if there's an iconic character, if there's an overall story, we like to come up with that in that brainstorm week. And this year, every year, someone has brought up Sinister and Surreal, and it just wasn't the right time. It wasn't feeling it. This year, I won't forget this. Dylan Koloff, he's one of our senior scenic designers. He said, what about Sinister and Surreal? And I went to the whiteboard and I wrote their names with the 3s as the E's at the end of each. And we all were like, oh my gosh, it's 33.
It's Halloween Horror Nights 33.
Perfect, right? We all kind of had this aha moment that it's their time.
And how important is the cast for each house? So
it's incredibly important. For this house, we wanted to, especially the mummy strippers, we wanted to make sure the people that were cast on stage were comfortable with it, right? And I think we picked the most perfect people to do that. For our Insidious the Further house, that house is filled with our best of the best characters, knowing that they have 3 boo holes that they have to operate for almost every scare in that
each
house.
actor has 3 boo holes?
Yes.
Oh wow, it's a lot.
And that's why we wanted the OG is what we call them. Those characters that have performed the absolute best for us, we wanted them to be in that house because we know they would have the ability and the stamina to use their environment to scare the best.
So are there any of this year's original houses that you would like to see made into a real movie?
Oh my gosh.
Which one?
Wow, I don't think anyone's asked me that before. That's amazing. Well, one, Slaughter Cinema. We would love to see every single one of those movies made into a real movie. That would be incredible to have, all 9 of those into a B horror movie, which would be awesome. I think Goblin's Feast would be a real fun movie. There's a lot of storytelling in that we could expand upon that. Major Suites, now that we've done a scare zone and a haunted house, there's more to that movie, if you will. We wrote a podcast story for Major Suites when we had Major Suites Sweet Revenge, and it's a deep story. It goes all the way back to when he and Miss Treats were kids. So that could be a fully fleshed out film. But we would love, I mean, honestly, that would be huge if we could develop films for all these original content. But I've never been asked that before. It's a great question. Great question. The first time we did a Ghostbusters house, we exited to that classic Ghostbusters music, and we wanted to do that same thing here because it just makes people feel good, right?
It does. It definitely does.
It makes people feel good as you exit. So yes, after we have the epic moment, the battle with Garaka, we're exiting out into our exit and you think you're done. Because you hear that Ghostbuster theme song and you're having fun, and maybe your senses are, I'm not gonna get scared anymore. I don't need to worry about it. I'm just dancing outside the house, right? And then all of a sudden you have one last look of Janine, but is that all? As you exit, there may be one final scare, and we love to do that. We absolutely love to give you one final scare.
Now we know exactly what goes into creating these horror houses, and we've seen them with the lights on. It's time to go inside and find out just how scary they really are.